Hey everybody, welcome to my Suburban Oasis. We're starting June and it is absolutely amazing in the garden. This is one of my favorite months. Everything just really starts to glow. All of the blooms start to push out and it's super beautiful. So my name's Soleil. If you're new here, thank you so much for joining. I really appreciate all of your comments and sharing. I'm wondering what your favorite month of the year is for gardening. My two favorites are June and September. I love the temperatures and I love how the garden looks during those months. Many of the other months are also wonderful, but if I had to choose, those are my two favorite. So let me know in the comments down below what yours is. And if you're new to my channel, also I garden in Zone 5B in mid-Michigan. So join me today as we wander through the garden and see everything that's blooming. So today I thought it would be fun to go through the garden in a little bit different order. So we're going to start over here in this corner today and work our way through the back. And we have a beautiful multi-blue clematis right here that is beginning to bloom. Isn't that gorgeous? And behind it we have the spearmint heuchera. These are the Duchess series and they're blooming these beautiful peachy apricot pink blooms with the autumn frost hosta, and we're getting ready to have a May Night Salvia bloom as well. We have some Dianthus that's blooming along with a beautiful water slide hosta, and then back here we're going to see some black barlow. Look at this columbine, isn't that gorgeous? It has really opened up in the last few days. And there's some more on the other side of this arborvitae as well. And I think this looks really pretty with the superstar spirea in front of it, as well as that heuchera. Look at the colors there. Now we have some curly leaved wee hostas in this garden bed that I think also are looking amazing. And of course the bleeding heart. I believe this one's called the King of Diamonds, which is good in sun. And we're just starting to get some blooms on these rose marvel salvias. These are absolutely stunning once they grow out because the blooms are very full in comparison to many. If you look at just the single bloom, as they come up the stem, they're much larger. And the quickfire hydrangea here is actually budding up already. I cannot believe it. It's definitely a weird year in terms of the timing of the blooms in the garden. As we come along the long border, you're going to see lots and lots of blooms happening as we get further down. And right here, a couple of things that are going really well are this beautiful blue Penstemon. Look at the color of blue on this. I'm going to have to look up this particular name because this was one I bought at the end of the season. And it said it was blue, and when it started to put out the buds, they actually looked pink, and I thought, that's not going to bloom blue. But sure enough, it is very much a blue color. And then back behind it, we have those gorgeous Mediterranean bells. This is an allium. I think some people also call it the Sicilian honey garlic, but aren't those a very unique shaped allium? They definitely look better when they're planted with several of them, and they do need full sun to really bloom in such an upright manner. We've got some foxglove that are next to the clematis back here that are starting to send up some spikes. And this clematis is getting lots of buds all over it. Let's take a look at the fountain gardens next. As you can see, the fountain gardens are still draped and surrounded by this gorgeous Waigila, which has been in bloom now for over a week and is just magnificent. I think it will probably bloom for another week, but either way, it's simply gorgeous. You can see my foxglove here are putting on some beautiful buds. Oh, and we have a robin right over here. See him just perched there? And look at those gladiator alliums. Those have come up. So big, softball-sized blooms. And the August moon hostas that are underneath of the fountain, this very stunning lime green foliage. It is a really nice foil in contrast to these Pallas purple heucheras that are out front. And we have some cat's pajama nepeta over here. And on the other side we have some cat's meow. And my goodness, this is another stunning multi-blue clematis that also is mixed with a Dr. Rupel. So you can see those pink sort of striped blooms towards the bottom mixed in with all of these gorgeous deep purple blooms. I think that this other garden over here is looking amazing as well still. It just is so serene. The blues of the ajuga are still just going strong but beginning to fade. And then we have the salvia with the azure snow and the beautiful crystal blue. And then the seed heads of the pasque flower back here. And my incredible hydrangeas are starting to get buds on them. And this beautiful blue geranium is starting to put some flowers out. And you can see them quite strong from the other angle on the other side of this bed. The depth of the color, blue and purple, and the hues just mingle so nicely. And then over here we have some more allium that are just starting to bloom. These are I believe these are Schubertii alliums. This is the first year in my garden, so it'll be great to see how they perform. I see we have one pink star right now, and I think it looks very cute with the deutzia that is beginning to bloom as well. So that will bring out those light pink colors. And here in the front of this bed, we have quite a few different sedums. I love to get some of the sun sparkler sedums. It is a variety that comes from Monrovia usually, and they have varieties that are called things like lime zinger. That one is lime zinger there. We have a cobweb hen and chicks, and just lots of different varieties of sedum within this bed. All right, well, let's continue our way down the long border over here. The heuchera have really filled out, and we're going to see some ninebark today that are also flowering. In this area we have a tiny wine ninebark. That's this one here, coming from between the two arborvitas. And you can see in the back some of the blooms are just starting, but soon this will be covered completely in those blooms. Just beautiful. The colors in this bed are amazing because most of the colors come from the foliage, and that just means that they continue throughout the season even as flowers come and go. And here we have the violet Riot salvia with a striking color against the barberry here. And then something that is really making my heart beat a little faster right now are these Duchess of Edinburgh Clematis blooms. Aren't those gorgeous? They just look like puffballs. They feel like floating clouds. And here are some that are getting ready to bloom. Just unreal. Then here we have some Dianthus. And These will bloom for quite an extended period of time, and I really like having them in my garden. The chives are continuing to bloom along this border, which provides some nice repetition of color. And those will go over probably at the end of this week, and then I will cut them all back and they will start over again, and I may get another couple of blooms. This clematis is also starting to bloom. Dr. Rupel. And the checkmark trilogy shrub back here has a couple of blooms on it. And this geranium that's right next to it is going to start to bloom soon as well. And you can see the colors that are happening in the garden are vibrant right now. The honeysuckle is blooming. Lots of white foamy blooms everywhere. Here we don't have a ton of color yet, but you can see that the daylilies and the penstemon are growing on here, and they will be blooming soon. The big root geraniums in the back there with the pink blooms are still going quite strong. And all of the hostas and heucheras in this bed are just lighting up the shade. We have lots of birds this time of year. The hostas have become so full in this bed from all of the rain and growth and heat that we've had that they're kind of smothering some of the other plants that are smaller in here. So it'll be interesting to see what happens as the season goes on here. But this barberry really is a gorgeous contrast to the golden foliage on these golden tiara hostas. I have had a couple of people ask me to help identify some of the hostas that I have, so if you're interested, I could do a video where I talk a little bit more specifically about some of the types of hostas that I have in my garden. If you're interested in that as well, let me know in the comments. It is really a great hosta year this year because we've had so much rain. I'm going to show you the mega caramel heuchera here because it is absolutely massive and so gorgeous, the colors. And those are just chives blooming behind it. I like to mix those in throughout the garden. They bloom when many other things are not blooming and really help to fill in some of the gaps and provide that beautiful lavender purple color. We have a lot of phlox that are getting ready to bloom. I can't wait to see them all because I collected a lot of opening act phlox this last year. And so I believe we have some white ones, we have pinkadot, we have blush. And so I'm expecting that many of them are going to be opening up very soon. Now this is the Lamium. I had quite a few people ask me about this one. This can reseed quite a bit, so just be careful if you plant it. This one's fairly well behaved just because of the garden bed that it's in. But it can reseed all around your garden, so just beware. Here we have the pink Poppet Waigila, still in bloom and looking so pretty. And we have some pansies back here. And those are mixed in with this beautiful striptease hosta right here and the Sun King Aurelia. And then so many other types of hostas back here. We have an Annabelle hydrangea, and this Annabelle is putting on some buds as well. So I have a feeling pretty soon we are going to be seeing quite a few hydrangea blooms, which seems slightly early to me. Usually it's not until mid-June, so maybe they'll hold off. This planter's looking really good. I'm enjoying watching it grow on with the rhubarb and the nasturtium. It's just a fun one to have. Really big leaves and then the trailing plants. Now I have come through and cut back all of my pulmonaria. This was the pretty in pink, so this is what it looks like after it flowers. And it's been deadheaded. And the spots are really large and the leaves are quite wide. So it's very different from some of the other pulmonaria that I have, which have much more lance-shaped leaves, or kind of a thin and narrow structure to them. I still am quite enamored by this pink fizz heucherella. I just love the colors on it, and I can't stop looking at the cute little bell-shaped flowers. The Pinky Winky hydrangea has really flushed out now. And we'll just show you what the Japanese maple looks like after we did our little pruning the other day. I think it looks great. I love having that kind of oblong branch reaching out over the mermaid bird bath. And look at the vibrant color of the Hakona Chloe grass. That contrast is really striking. These Hosta undulata. It's a variegated type. And along here we have some Cleopatra cone flowers, which I really love. They're kind of a pale, creamy, yellow-white. The rhododendron are just finishing up blooming. This purple one has been magnificent, but kind of shrouded by the really beautiful blue of this hosta. But I don't care. I just think it looks so cute tucked under there. I've added a little bit of garden statuary. This is my sun face that I have tucked in my hawthorn tree here. And I have added some additional Buddhas. So we have this Buddha head here amongst the fun and games. These are heucherellas. Those are the hopscotch variety. And then over here we have also cut back all of the lungwort, so you'll see it kind of looks like there's a bit of an absence right now. There's a little bit of ajuga in here, kind of filling in some of the gaps. But the lungwort I cut back just a few days ago, and you'll see that there are leaves already coming up on just about all of them. So they really do fill back in nicely and fairly quickly. And I apologize if this video is moving a little bit. There definitely are suddenly a whole lot of mosquitoes out. So I'm trying to kind of brush them off as I go, unfortunately. Don't know where they came from. Now this Rainbow Sensation Waigila is blooming back here and looking beautiful. And these hydrangeas over here have really long names. They are called the Seaside Bar Harbor Seaside Serenade. Bar Harbor Seaside Serenade Hydrangea. There we go. And these are very similar to Annabelle and Incredible. They have a nice stiff stem though. So they're really lovely, and looking forward to seeing those bloom. Someone asked me about these Dame's Rocket and whether they are invasive. They can be, but I have not had problems with them here because I simply clip them back as soon as they get ready to set seed. So that has worked for me. You know, it's always important to connect with people who garden in a similar area as you because they can give you advice on what plants may do in your particular area. I don't know if you can see from here, but I planted out those pots, and the dahlias are really filling out quite well in there. And I have some of the dahlias in this half moon bed. And the wild violets have gotten about a foot tall in here. So I decided I really needed to come in and start to get them out because they literally were beginning to take over and cover up some of my more cherished plants, like the Wizard of Oz, Veronica, and that just is not acceptable. So I had to come through and get some of those out. And it definitely makes the bed look a little bit more cleaner and organized, so I just have to do the inner part of it. But I have filled up 2 barrels full of the purple violets. Cardoons are getting pretty big, but so are the nasturtiums, so I'm not sure which one's going to get taller. Hopefully the cardoons will continue to outgrow the nasturtiums, but we're definitely starting to get some blooms on the nasturtiums. I love creating little vistas or views up pathways, and this one is no slouch with the violas on the left and the ajuga on the right, lining the pathway, ending in the chives and dahlias and violets, or not violets, but the pansies. I think they're beautiful. And then just to our left, we have the ninebarks that are now almost in full bloom. We have marigolds around the tomatoes in the garden. The strawberries are continuing to bloom. The lettuce is amazing. I'm harvesting a lot. It hardly looks like I've touched any of it. But just look at these beautiful blooms on the ninebark. So gorgeous. They don't last for as long as I would like them to, probably only about a week. But if it cools off, we could get more. It's been a great year for iris here. Our bearded iris have been blooming a lot. This is a new type of nepeta that I'm trying. This one is called Persian Blue, and it's by Monrovia, and I really like it. It's blooming a lot, and the cute little bell-shaped flowers are beautiful. The irises are still smelling really good. And I have more foxglove that are getting ready to bloom over here in the potager. So these were all grown from seed last year, and now they're blooming this year because foxgloves are biennials, where they grow on the first year, and then the second year they put out their blooms. I divided this clematis last year, so it's a little bit weaker than it was, but it is the multi-blue, and it is getting ready to bloom as well. And I think as the season progresses, it will get even better. So the deutzia is also getting ready to bloom over here. It's about halfway bloom, maybe a third. And the Rainbow Sensation Waigila is continuing to look great back there. These gorgeous peonies are also getting ready to bloom. I did have to stake them. They're probably about 4 feet tall right now. Things are just, the size of things this year is pretty monstrous. Look at that color combination right there. Between the foliage and the flowers. Just wow. Okay, let's check out the front yard. So this particular bed has really bushed out. That golden tiara hosta is just so lush and full this year. It's amazing. I won't be trimming my boxwoods probably for another couple of weeks. They still look like they're putting on some nice fresh growth. So I'm going to continue to let them grow a bit. Lots of irises still blooming. And these are probably about 4 feet tall as well. We have an agapanthus back here that is putting on a bloom stalk. Last year it didn't bloom very well, so it'll be interesting to see how it does this year in comparison. I'm not sure why it was such a weak bloom last year, but it was. I'm really liking the Paint the Town Magenta Dianthus. It is so cute the way it just pops up above this light blue foliage, so I would highly recommend it. This is a part shade bed and it's doing quite well considering that it pretty much does like full sun. So I would say it has some versatility to it. But isn't that cute? I just love it. Such dainty flowers, but a really pretty tough flower at the same time. I have been working on cleaning up my flower beds from the tulips and the daffodils. Usually they say to make sure that you leave the foliage up until it turns yellow. And I would just say that for me, I'm not willing to wait that long. So at this stage, once I get to June, I cut it back about halfway. And that way it's not quite so gangly looking and doesn't stick out above all of the hosta or the other plants that it's around, and it looks a little bit less messy to me that way, and I feel like it just looks better overall. So that's kind of my approach to it. It's a little bit of a compromise, but for me it's been successful. I have not had problems with the daffodils not coming back or the tulips not coming back very strong just because I cut them back a little early. This patch of hostas I divided last year and I think it looks so pretty. The blue hosta in the middle with the 3 June hostas in front. That's their name, June, the variety. And the pink sparkler bush back here. This is a birch leaf spirea. It is starting to have some little pink sparkly blooms on it. So that's great. All right, let's go out and look at the sunbed over here, because we have some new things happening out here as well. Now, in this bed, I did get most of the daffodils cleaned up. The alliums are kind of at the end of their life cycle. We've just had a couple, 3 days of about 88-degree weather, so they're starting to put on their seed heads. Over here, though, we have some new alliums that are coming up above the boxwoods. These are the gladiator bulbs, so these should be nice and big. This is their 2nd year in this place, and I just like how they pop up over the bushes. And it does hide their foliage as well as they die back, so that's pretty cool. I have a lot of dianthus on the edge of this bed that is just starting to get blooming, and some veronica that is just starting to bloom. These are, I believe, Venice Blue variety. And here is some more. You can see how nice and blue. It's a very deep hue of blue. And then multiple types of salvia in here. New Dimension Pink salvia and Merlot Rose salvia. So some pinks and some purples. And in the front, I will show you, we have some others as well. And then the goldfinch daisies are starting to come up here. I planted those at the end of last year. They're very beautiful in terms of like a creamy color, kind of a light yellow, and I'm excited to see how those grow on. I've got some along this edge. Here's another one. And there's that wabi sabi viburnum. I mean, it's hardly coming up behind these hostas because they're so huge this year. I wasn't expecting that. But you just never know. That's kind of one of the fun things about gardening. Every year is a little bit different. And then you just kind of have to adapt your plan to what the weather and nature brings you. So we have lots of sedum up front here. This is a variegated sedum, but it looks like some of it is reverting to more of an autumn joy sedum. I don't know if I'll keep that there if that's the case. So we have some more deutzia here. So pretty. Look at those dainty flowers. These would look beautiful if you had just tons of them, but you could also just plant it in a pot. And then the May Night Salvia is getting ready to bloom. One of the things that's special about the May Night Salvia is the stems are also a deep purple. And then I believe this is the Schubertii or the Christophii. This might be the Christophii allium out front here. I'm looking forward to seeing this one bloom. And in front of that we have some wildberry, powwow wildberry echinacea. So that will come up later. One of the things you'll see in my gardens is that I try really hard to find things that will keep the interest going through multiple seasons. Something should always be looking good. I did manage to get another small trellis for out here on the mailbox. So I have this Niobe Clematis that is growing on the left side, and I have another one that I'm going to put on the right side. So that will be really nice to kind of just make it a little more symmetrical. Up front here we have some Veronica Woolly Speedwell that's getting ready to bloom. And then this beautiful viburnum, this is the blue muffin viburnum, is really putting on its flowers, just getting ready to open. And you'll see the May Night Salvia in this bed is just starting to open, and it's such a deep dark purple compared to almost any other salvia that there is, and it has a very, as you can tell, skinny and upright appearance. I've had some significant growth on the black lace elderberry over this last week, as well as the blue arrow juniper, and I'm just really happy with it. I like the way this bed is looking. And somebody was funny this last week. They said, "Did you just walk by peonies and not say anything?" So this week, here we go. We have one that is in full bloom, and they smell absolutely amazing. And this bed over here is looking really nice. I think just the color scheme in this bed makes me happy. I kind of like, it feels kind of dramatic with the deep purples and the deep purple foliage. And you can see I got these planters with the trellises in, and I'm loving how those turned out. I think they turned out really good. I like the colors in them, and the clematis are starting to just get tall enough to begin to wrap up on the obelisks. Now these tiny white ninebark, they're not flowering yet, but it will happen soon. And believe it or not, my purple coneflowers actually have buds on them. Cannot believe it. And then over here we have some what are called pink Pom Pom Dianthus. And I love these as well. These are a double flower and they're like, I don't know, fluorescent pink. It's super bright. But I just love the contrast against that dark mulch and the lime green of the boxwoods. We've got lots of phlox over here, and the geraniums are blooming, and then the whole row of liatris along this walkway is preparing itself to come up to bloom. Now I do need to come in here and prune up this eastern snowball viburnum, and just kind of limb it up a little bit and shape it. But other than that, I think everything's looking pretty good. Just trying to keep on top of things right now. June, following May, can often be a month of a lot of growth. So I hope you're enjoying your garden. Again, let me know what's your favorite month for gardening. And are you interested in a video focusing on some hostas? Well, thanks for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed this tour, and we'll see you next time. Bye!